So in my review today, I will talk briefly about the product that we are offering to our customers. I will talk about business targets of the past fiscal year. I will talk about key achievements. Then we will go to business targets for the ongoing fiscal year. And then a couple of words about significant events after the end of the period. So let's start. So why Nightingale exists? So we exist to bring better healthcare for everyone. And when I'm saying everyone, I mean everyone. I mean healthcare professionals. I mean all the citizens. I mean taxpayers. I mean everyone who is involved in healthcare. And in the end of the day, everyone is involved in healthcare. So how can we solve healthcare's biggest challenge? Before going there, we need to understand what are the key challenges in healthcare. And many times when I talk about healthcare around the world, there are a lot of concerns, there's a lot of worries, there are a lot of things that people feel that they should be fixed. But if we look at the big picture, I think there are two outstanding issues. The first one is costs. So healthcare costs up to 18% of gross domestic product. This is in the United States. In Europe, many European countries, it's 10% of the gross domestic product. Almost everywhere, healthcare is approximately 4 times more expensive than military spending. We many times don't think about it because healthcare just happens around us, but it's immensely expensive. The second point is that it's not only about money. Healthcare system today, the way how we think about healthcare is, of course, we are treating people, we have all the time better treatments, but it is also causing a lot of suffering. This suffering is actually reflected if we look at the how long people live. So people live longer, but then yet they are sicker than ever. If we look this in a bit more detail and put a number to these huge costs, well, it has been estimated that by 2030, healthcare costs reach 47 trillion. These are kind of numbers that are hard to understand. But what is the key message here is that healthcare is a massive economical challenge. And the biggest part, by far the biggest part of these costs is caused by chronic preventable diseases. Why we are in this kind of a situation? Why do we have these problems? There are two things that are causing this negative cycle. Firstly, healthcare is actually not healthcare, it's sick care. So healthcare system is treating sick people. The part of healthcare system that is preventing diseases is very thin. Another problem is a conflict of interest. As I showed, it's a massive business. And at the moment, the more there are sick people, the more there is money. So the logic in healthcare is broken, and because the logic is broken, we have massive problems. So how do we fix this? The only way to fix this problem is to have less sick people, which means that we need to prevent diseases at scale. So prevention is something that people usually, when I meet people in healthcare, this is pretty much what everyone agrees about. But I wanted to show what prevention means and why it is such an effective tool to solve this problem. So here is a huge simplification how life works. So here we have age. The older you get, the more sick people there is. So what prevention does? It moves the line. And when it moves the line, what happens is that people develop less diseases when they get older. And when people develop less diseases, there are less sick people and there are less costs. And when there are less sick people, in addition to the lower costs, there is less suffering. I mean, everyone wants to live healthy. So I mentioned that the logic in healthcare is broken. How can we make this prevention actually work? Is that we need to redefine logic of doing healthcare. This is not just like a single product or just a single innovation. This is about rethinking the whole logic in healthcare. And I will show you now how we can do it. So the starting point of prevention is, of course, the ability to detect the disease risks when people are still healthy. So preventative healthcare and the new healthcare logic is not only that healthcare addresses sick people, healthcare actually addresses everyone. So what do? We need a technology that can detect risks from healthy population at scale. When we can detect the risks, we target the preventative actions to the ones who are at high risk. And these preventative actions, this we know already. There is no magic. Healthcare professionals know how to reduce the risks of people. So first we find out who are at risk, then we target the risk-lowering interventions to those people, and then we measure the risk again. So we actually measure how well the intervention has worked to reduce the risks. So we need a technology that first of all can detect the risks for everyone. You target the interventions, then you measure again and you quantify if the risk is actually changing. And then because you can measure again and you know which interventions are actually working, then you give money to those interventions. So the new logic in healthcare, instead of giving money, the more you have sick people, you start giving money, the better you can lower the risks. When you can do this in national scale, you build a very different kind of a healthcare system. You build a healthcare system that is systematically lowering the risks in the population. When that happens, you have less sick people. When you have less sick people, you have less costs, less suffering. This is how global healthcare will be built in the future. So I mentioned that risk detection is a key concept here. We are already at the moment, the healthcare systems are detecting risks of people for chronic diseases. These clinical risk calculators, they can detect the risk pretty well, but the problem is that they are very manual. So you need a lot of clinicians' time. You need a lot of resources to actually do the calculations. And when you need that, healthcare system that is already overburdened cannot really, this is not a feasible way of detecting the risks. For example, getting people to meet the clinicians, you take blood pressure, you ask family history, you look at the body mass index. It's not feasible to use healthcare professionals' time to do it. So they work, but they are manual. Then I have to talk a bit about AI. I think there are a lot of great changes that AI will bring, but there is a lot of unrealistic expectations as well. With AI models, you can basically automate a lot of things. But in risk detection, it's very hard to populate the data if the data does not exist in the system already. How do you populate or generate molecular information to a patient record system if it doesn't exist there already? I think it's even dangerous to try to do it. So what we do, what Nightingale does, and what is the core of our innovation is that our technology can detect the risks with equal performance to the current clinical risk calculators. But the difference is that we only need a single blood sample, age and sex as clinical parameters. So we can actually scale this to everyone. So we have high reliability and high level of automation. Without this kind of a technology, there is no preventative healthcare. And we have to build preventative healthcare. It's not optional. We have to build preventative healthcare. And this is where Nightingale's technology can really enable the new era in healthcare. So how the product actually works? As I said, we need only a single blood sample. From this single blood sample, we automatically create a clinical report that detects the risk for different chronic diseases. And I will quickly walk you through some of the selected parts of the report to share the idea how a clinician is actually using the product. So now we have here a patient, 60-year-old male. We have run this using one single blood sample, age and sex. We detect the risk for heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, chronic kidney disease, fatty liver disease. Now, if you would detect these risks using traditional tools in healthcare, it would take hours of healthcare professionals' time. I mean, nobody does it because it's so cumbersome to do. Would you want to see the risks for these key chronic diseases? Yes, of course you want to see the risks. And now with Nightingale's technology, you actually can see the risks every time for every disease. Now for the clinician, I mentioned already that one problem with the current tools is that they require too much resources to detect the risk. Well, with this, first of all, you don't need any physician's time to do the risk assessment. And now, if you are a doctor and you see this, it takes 30 seconds to understand the risk situation of a patient. It's groundbreaking. There's no other way to do this. 30 seconds. Now, let's continue with the same patient. Let's have a look at the heart attack risk, because we see here the risk is high. So let's have a look how the clinician, how the doctor can communicate the risk situation to the patient, because it's very important to also make sure that the patient understands the risk situation. So the doctor, the clinician could say to the patient, dear patient, your current risk of having heart attack is 18%. Now I understand that 18% maybe not tell you a lot about the risk, but if you read this graph down a bit, you see another number below 18, which is 6%. 6% is the average risk for a man your age. So on average it's 6%, you are 18. So you are 3 times higher than average. This is pretty high. And now the good news is that we can actually change this. We can lower your risk, but we have to do something. Let's start doing something today, even though you don't have the disease yet. Because if we don't do anything, and you read the graph towards the right-hand side, in 15 years, when you are 75 years old, your risk is 49%. 1 in 2 gets a heart attack. So let's start the preventative actions and lower your risk. After we have done these preventative actions, you come back in a couple of months. You come back in a couple of months, we take the test again. And when we take the test again, we can see if these interventions that we agreed together have actually worked. And our target is to move you from red to green. And this will substantially lower your risk of developing heart attack and living long, healthy life. So healthcare needs a new logic. Healthcare needs a better logic. Healthcare has to become a preventative system. If it doesn't, the costs will go completely out of hand. The suffering will increase. If we choose that avenue where we continue the way we are working today, there is nothing good in the end of the road. The only solution is that we implement preventative healthcare in national level. It requires these 4 components. It needs a technology to detect the risks. We need to be able to target the preventative actions to the ones who need risk reduction. We need to be able to measure the efficacy of the interventions, and we need to build a funding system that incentivizes preventative healthcare. When we do this, it's better healthcare for everyone, and Nightingale's technology has a key position in making this happen. And our technology, it's already in national use here in Finland. We are already making this happen across the world. So that was a brief intro to what we do and why does it matter. Let's move to the business targets of the past fiscal year. Our targets, we had 3 targets. Number 1, win a large international deal. Target 2, increase revenue. Target 3, improve efficiency. How did we do with these targets? Number 1, we put a lot of focus in commercial ramp up. We signed an agreement with public health in Finland. This is a big milestone now. If you reflect this with the product that I was talking earlier, this is a big milestone to move towards the adoption in public healthcare systems. Number 2, increasing revenue. We managed to increase our revenue during the fiscal year. We had challenges over the year. One of the biggest challenges was the US market. There was a lot of uncertainty in the American market, and that also had an impact to our revenue. Despite of that, we managed to increase the revenue. Then number 3, it's a pretty challenging task to run a global company and increasing the business everywhere while maintaining very competitive cost level. So our EBITDA decreased by around 15%. And I think, like, given the actions that we also managed to do over the fiscal year, I think our cost management also worked very well. So those were the targets of the past fiscal year. If we look at the milestones, and as I mentioned, like building up, we are a truly global company, and building up this global operation while maintaining the competitive cost level is really a challenge, and this is something I'm very proud of, how Nightingale's team can still make this happen despite of the many things that we are doing in parallel. In Finland, our technology, as I mentioned, was adopted into public healthcare. In Japan, we have production ongoing. UK, the same thing, production ongoing. And then Singapore, the US, a lot happened with the labs, and I think big milestones also moving the business forward in these regions. If we look a bit in more detail, here is some details about the public healthcare deal that we did. It's together with South Savo Wellbeing Services County. We will start with a pilot, but I think here the kind of the strategic achievement is that we are now really doing the integration with the public healthcare system. And this is, of course, something that has been a long time, one of our goals. And that's because I think that if we really want to change how healthcare is working, we need to integrate to the entire healthcare system, which is in many countries, it's a public health system. So it's an exciting project. We will provide updates when we move forward with that. In Singapore, Southeast Asia is a very important market for us. We have an excellent partnership together with the largest diagnostics provider in the region, Pathology Asia Holdings. So we have together implemented the laboratory capacity, and now we start from Singapore to offer our services, but naturally the focus is in the region, in the Southeast Asia region. The regulatory approvals that we managed to get in Singapore, I think they demonstrate yet again our capability to kind of get approvals from the world's most strict regulatory system. So I think that was also a very strong achievement. In the United States, we opened our laboratory in New York. At the moment, we serve medical research customers, and I think we have already closed many major accounts in the US, including Kaiser Permanente and Mass General Brigham. We are, of course, working there to expand bring our also clinical portfolio to the US, and that work is moving forward well. And we will naturally provide updates from that as well. Then we moved to the main market in last spring in Helsinki and started trading in OTCQX. This is because we want to make our shares more broadly globally available. And then next, let's go to the business targets of this fiscal year. This is short and sweet. The aim is to increase revenue by at least 50% compared to the previous financial year. The reason for the business target is that we have been building a company like Nightingale. It's a really long-term process. There's a very long scientific research stage. There is a very long R&D stage, and there's a lot of work needed for the regulation. It takes a lot of time to build it up. The stage that we are at the moment is that now we strongly see that the products are at a stage where we can start putting more and more effort to the commercial ramp up. And this is the first time when we provide a clear revenue guidance for this fiscal year. And I have said many times earlier that we provide revenue guidance when we are ready to provide it. And maybe this is the reflection and the key point here, that now we have reached a maturity that we can provide also the revenue guidance. And that's why we have it here as the main target for the financial year. There are no changes to the midterm business targets, long-term business targets. The ambition here is still, as I showed to you, this is it's hard to imagine any addressable markets that are as big as we have around preventative healthcare, particularly with chronic diseases. So that's why we have still very high ambitions, and at the moment we didn't do any updates to the mid and long-term business targets. Then, as the last point that I wanted to make, I wanted to talk a bit about one of the significant events that took place after the end of the past fiscal year. So Nightingale was selected as a multi-omics provider for a 2.4 million research project in Denmark. This is why this is important. Of course, there is the revenue side of things, but also when we look how the field of omics sciences or how the field of advanced medicine is developing at the moment, there is a clear trend that more and more science is based on multiple different data modalities. So it's not only like one data set you are looking, you want to look different data sets in parallel. And now if we take this into biology, what you actually want to look at, you want to look different molecules, in this case different size of molecules. So our technology can provide the metabolomics. We look at the metabolism with our data, and then with proteomics, adding the proteomics, it's part of the same biological system, but with proteomics there is a possibility to look at even smaller molecules that are circulating in blood. And now if you combine these two things, you get more exciting research opportunities when you try to understand the development of health and disease. The key advantage for Nightingale in this business is that when we measure our technology, we take the blood sample, we measure our technology, our assay, we can use the same sample to measure also proteomics. This is a huge advantage because you don't have to use so much of the sample material, which is very expensive in these research in these research cohorts, and then you get the extensive data from this single sample, kind of in an easy manner, but it's also the cost efficiency is also superior to other options where you would send two separate samples to two different labs. We also this week actually made an announcement that we are collaborating. We have a partnership together with another proteomics provider called Alamar Biosciences. their technology is focused in brain health, so brain health research. So that's very exciting, and it fits to the same concept. So Nightingale, I think we are the only provider in the world who can provide the Nightingale metabolomics and then the proteomics from the same sample. So that's why I think we are with this showing that we are taking steps towards the multi-omics business in research. So I think that's some exciting development that it's good to follow how what we can do in that market. All right, this was it. Thank you everyone.